Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 1% Healthier podcast. My name is Megan Timpson, and today I hope that you are ready for a good chit-chat episode because I'm going to be sharing with you my food story and the ups and downs, the roller coaster that I've had, because when I was really struggling, when it was just like feeling really lonely and I wanted to know that there was help out there, that change was possible for me, I looked to podcasts, people's recovery stories, people on Instagram that shared with me that a better life was possible, and I want this podcast to be that for you too, because truly, like, there is a better, healthier life out there, and it does come if we're willing to put in the work. And so I wanted to share with you what got me to where I was, and then how I got myself out of it, and all the nitty-gritties a little bit, because if I didn't share that, you'd probably just think that, like, Megan is the girl that loves high rocks, who runs races. She's the quote-unquote healthy friend. She is a personal trainer, a nutrition coach. She might have her life together. You might just see like the tip of the iceberg, but nobody really knows what you're going through when it's just you. And I would think about that all the time, like integrity, and how I would like be so upset at myself because when I was by myself, I didn't recognize who I was. And that was the hardest part, because it was the early mornings and the late nights where it was just you and your thoughts, and you were fighting the urge to self-destruct, and you wondered, is life ever going to look different than this? And I can say now, yes, life does look different, because struggling with food was the first problem that I learned that my own self-will and discipline couldn't solve. Because the more determined I was to fix it on my own, the deeper I dug myself into a hole, and the more impossible it seemed to get myself out. Until I was so broken and I looked around and I realized that I actually can't do this anymore. And I probably need to get help. And I probably need to try something else. And as somebody for years who has never let anybody into my life, who's been very independent, it was really hard for me to accept that fact that maybe I needed to ask for help, and maybe what I was doing wasn't the right thing for me to be doing. And once I realized that, and I acknowledged I couldn't do it alone, and I couldn't do it in the way that I'd been trying, that I had to write a different story. And so I did. So this is my story. And I wanted to start, like, even back in high school, because I struggled with food before I acknowledged that I struggled with food. In saying that, because honestly, like, I tried so many diets in the past. Like, during high school, I'd done like a military diet. I'd like tried intermittent fasting. I'd tried keto. I tried being vegan. I was vegan for the longest, probably for like 6 months, not because I wanted to lose weight, but just because I wanted to be healthy. And I thought that being plant-based and just eating literal fruit and vegetables and grains, like, that's all I would eat. I wouldn't do any of the fake vegan animal products or anything like that. I thought that that would be like my healthiest self, until my skin took a sharp decline and like I had acne everywhere. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? Because I'm literally eating no sugar, no dairy, no gluten, all the things everyone is saying not to eat, but yet I still look like this. Like, what's going on? And I remember at one point I was like, well, maybe this isn't like the best diet for me. Maybe other people can eat this way, but for me, clearly there's something going on. And I eventually had to choose not to be vegan anymore, because I went on my mission. And on my mission, I couldn't really control like the food that people fed me, but I could control the groceries that I got. So I was like, well, at least I can try and like be the healthiest that I can be when I can control it. And so on my mission, like, I was still in the mindset of like eating super clean ingredients, no high fructose corn syrup. If it had that in it, I wouldn't even look at it. If it had like more than 3 ingredients, I'd be like, nope, never mind, like, not my food. I would be like very stickler on the food that I bought. And then when my companions would buy like their food, it seemed like they didn't really like care about nutrition, some of them. And I was like, I would be like petty in my head, like, bro, like, you should eat healthier than that. But in my head, I was like, I want the chips, I want the cookies, I want the crackers, I want more than just my vegetables, Oh man. And it really like opened my eyes to the fact, like, I was projecting, like, a lot of, like, how I thought about food on, like, other people. And then I realized, too, like, if I could control what I can control, I would be fine. That's what I thought. Until, like, if it was just by myself, then I would want their food, you know? Like, I would want to have, like, the cookies, the crackers, the stuff that I would put off limits. And so I would never buy it myself because I knew that if I ate some of it, then I would want to eat all of it. And so I would never buy it. But then there were times where I would buy cereal. And we would be, like, working from sun up till sundown, literally, like, an 8 to 8, a 9 to 9. And we'd come back, and I would eat an entire box of cereal. And I would, like, look at my companion and be like, I can't believe I did that. Like, next time, tell me to stop eating. Tell me to stop eating sugar. I'm not going to buy any more boxes of cereal. You got to make sure that I don't do that. And, like, trying to, like, have somebody else help me, like, tell them to, like, bro, put me in line, because obviously I can't do it for myself. Like, I need some external accountability or something, because what I'm doing, like, telling myself to stop eating is not working, because I would, like, eat a bowl of cereal and then robotically get up, fill up my bowl, and go sit back down, and just, you know, it was crazy. And then I realized, like, okay, something is, like, going on in my head, because I would, like, never let myself, like, eat out. Like, me and my companions would, like, never eat out. And then when I would, like, I would eat until I was, like, so full, and I would be uncomfortable. And then I would just, like, be in this cycle of, like, feeling bad about my body, wanting to eat something to comfort myself, feeling worse about my body, wanting to eat more because I might as well have, I already ate something bad. And this cycle over and over and over again. And I'm like, how do I get out of this? Like, it's probably the food. So I just got to stop eating those comfort foods. I would always blame it on the food, but turns out never helped. But we'll get there. We'll get there to what actually helped. Because when I got back from my mission, I was like, I really want to get back into shape. I hadn't, on my mission, I was really just kind of like jogging in the morning or doing like body weight workouts. I was like, I want to get into shape. I want to build muscle. I want to lose fat. And I need a workout plan to follow. I want to get lean. And so I started like following a progressive overload program. I talked about more of like my fitness journey stuff on my own fitness journey episode. But at one point I was like following all of these fitness influencers, and then I was following bodybuilders and bodybuilding coaches, and I was like, ooh, I want to look like that. Like, that's the kind of transformation that I want, because I saw people that looked like me, that had my body size, my body type, and then they went from that to looking shredded on stage, and I was like, wow, if they could do that, maybe I could do that too. And so I decided eventually to hire a coach, and I had a meal plan, and I had a macro plan, and a workout plan to follow. The workouts, so easy to follow. Like, I did it. That was like the funnest part for me. But then when it came to the food, the meal plans, the macros, that was where it got hard for me. The first few weeks, I was like, dang, this is like relatively easy. Like, all I have to do is buy the food that it says and eat it. Like, it should be that simple. Like, isn't weight loss like really that simple? Supposedly. But it doesn't make it easy, especially when in the head you're having so many thoughts about food and body all day long that it controls your life. Like, I always wondered, like, looking at people's like what I eat in the day videos, like, bro, you can eat that, and like, don't you like want to eat your entire kitchen like at the end of the night, like after you eat like that? Don't you want to like eat chocolate? Don't you like have these urges to binge? Like, nobody was talking about it, and I was like getting so sad, because when I ate so healthy and nutritious, I still felt empty inside for whatever reason. And looking back, me 2025 now, I'm like, I kind of know, if I did the introspection, like I know now. But I was like, doesn't anybody else struggle with like food the way that I do? And so I was getting so upset. So I was like, well, let me just continue to stick to my macros. I would follow the plan super strictly for like 3 days. And then I would go to bed some nights, stomach rumbling, and would be like, dang, I guess it takes what it takes. Like, I gotta go to bed hungry. Like, if I do that consistently enough, the days will stack, and I will lose the weight, and I will be happy, because I'll finally get on stage and have that transformation that I'm after. And I thought that was how it was going to be. I thought that was the transformation I was going to have. But then there were nights where the stomach growling, I was so hungry and thinking about food, I literally couldn't go to bed, that I would get up and I would go have something. I have chocolate milk, or I'd have an orange and be I'm trying to eat something healthy. I don't want, I would have some berries or something, but that just wouldn't satisfy me. So then I would think about what else can I eat? Tortillas, literally anything I could find. I would just eat it because I just needed to fill that void. It was so weird to think about. If you've never struggled with food, you probably don't understand, but it becomes not about the food when you realize that you would eat bread or tortillas or random fruits, vegetables, even anything that you could just put in your mouth to create that chatter in your mind to get rid of the emotion that you're trying to feel. That's what it really came down to. But man, I was just so caught up in I just want to be a bodybuilder. I want to look good. And so I was okay, I'm going to burn the boats. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to set this day that I'm going to do this competition by. Every time I walk past a mirror, I would literally lift up my shirt and check if I had abs yet. I would weigh myself every morning. I would hate what I saw. I would wish I was smaller. Every morning, I would get on my knees and I'd pray for a good day. God, please help me have a good day. Please help me stick to my macros today, because yesterday, I didn't. So, please help me have a good day. Because it was a good day if I lost weight and I stuck to the plan, and it was a bad day if I didn't. And I would sometimes scroll on Instagram at night, not only looking at bodybuilders and hoping if I saw enough of them that I would become the next one. If I put enough of them on my vision board that I would be her too. But I would also look at all these food accounts and all these delicious cookies and desserts and pizzas and these fun recipes that I told myself I could try once I had achieved the transformation that I wanted. Once I had gotten skinnier, once I had gotten leaner, then I could have the food. And it was that bargaining with myself. I was if this, then that, but right now, no. And that made it super hard for me, because not only did I say those foods were off limits, but I started to cut off other things in life that were connected to food. Traveling, which I love to do, was so hard for me to do and enjoy it, because all I could think about was the food, trying to control the food. Or what was another thing that I did? Honestly, vacations or anything social. If I got invited anywhere, I wouldn't go, because I was well, if there's food there, I can't control myself around the food, so I might as well just not go. But come 2023 of this summer, this was in 2023, I had a upcoming vacation to go on a humanitarian trip, and I ended up going. And I was I'm going to try and stick to my meal plan, but geez, I don't have any control over the food that is offered there. I brought my protein powders. I brought what I could to try and control it, but really I couldn't have a say. So when I got back, I was well, maybe if I try a macro plan, it would be better. So I had a coach gave me a macro plan to follow, which was cooler for me at the time, because it's oh, I can learn how to make all foods fit in my diet and whatever. And so maybe if I do go on vacation, it'll work a little bit better. But it was still the same thing, because I would stick to it for a little bit, but then still feel unsatisfied. And I was what's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? And every vacation that I went on, it just was evidence stacking against me that I couldn't do it, because I went on a cruise with my friends, which is obviously all you can eat food any time of day. I would try really hard in the morning. I'd eat really healthy. For lunch, I was well, I can have these shrimp tacos. I know shrimp is high protein and the tortillas are these amount of carbs. I would try and mentally do the math, how many calories I was eating that day. But then I was dang, I probably already gone over. So you know what? Screw it. I might as well just eat whatever I want for dinner, order 2 dinners, have 3 dinners. The world is my oyster right now. So I just might as well make the most of it. And we would go to a dinner, and I would like sit next to one of my guy friends, and he shocked me. I didn't like, this was like all like my mental dialogue, but like he would like order like appetizers, and if he didn't like it, he didn't finish it. And I was like, okay, how are you doing that? And then like when it came to like the main course, he would eat, and like he would like leave a couple bites of chicken left, some of the potatoes left. He'd leave like 3 string beans left, and I was like in shock and awe. I was like, how is it that you can just like leave food on your plate and be okay? Like, how is that? How are you doing that? I was so shook, because for me, like, if I'm gonna have food that is off limits to me, or like food that I've never had in my life, I'm gonna eat it all, because I'm never gonna have it again. It never was about how I was feeling. It was never about like what I necessarily wanted, what I needed. It was just like, I'm already being quote unquote bad, so I'm just gonna free for all. And so I never got to experience like what he was experiencing of just like leaving food. I'm like, no big deal. I was like, what? I was so mind blown by that experience that I was like, dang, he's living a better life than I am living right now, because all I can think about is food. All I can think about is how I look right now. All I can think about is, am I losing weight, and why am I not losing weight? And my coach is going to be disappointed because I'm on yet another vacation. I didn't stick to my macros, and like the chatter. I would think about that all the time. Not like where we were going on the cruise, but like about me. It was just sad, you know. And then I went to New York with one of my friends, and it was the same thing. I tried to control what I can control, but at the end of the day, like, I was thinking about food and my body all day, every day. What are we going to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? I needed to plan these things ahead, because at the end of the day, that was like the only thing that I could control. Like, that was what I was trying to, you know, figure out for myself. And none of these approaches to how I was eating was working for me. And it was getting so frustrated, because every time I got back from vacation, I would try and get back on track. And I would say, okay, no more vacations until I do this show, until I look a certain way, until I've lost the weight. The new year came around, 2024. I was like, this is the year that I change. This is the year that I become a bodybuilder. But what was hard about that was, like, at the beginning of the year, I'd gone on a couple dates with like these random guys, kids. I'd gone on a date with like one person I went to the movies with, and he offered me popcorn, and I was like, no, I don't like popcorn. I'm not hungry. What a lie. Like, I would have loved popcorn, but I didn't let myself have it. But then I would go home and feel so upset and unsatisfied with myself that I would like eat something. So I might as well have had the popcorn. You know, like, what was I really doing? Another date that I went on, I went to dinner with somebody. I had ordered like a personal pizza for myself, and I ate half of it, took the rest home because I was trying to be good. Even though I still wanted to eat it, I was still hungry at the restaurant. Only to have gone home, ate the rest of the pizza in my car by myself, alone, and then just felt so bad. Felt guilty about it. I was like, why did I do that? Why is this happening to me? Another date that I'd gone on, I went with someone to Chipotle after he'd gone on a really long run, and he told me he wasn't super hungry, so he didn't finish his bowl. And I hadn't eaten up until that date, till lunchtime, because I wasn't sure how many calories I was going to eat. So I wanted to save them up for the date that we'd go on. And if he wasn't going to finish his bowl, then I wasn't going to finish mine. That was my mindset. And so I was still hungry, but I was like, oh, womp womp, I guess I won't finish mine too. I'll be like, yeah, I'm good, I'll throw mine away. But really, I was like, dang, what a waste. Like, I really wanted to finish that, you know, like, that was the mindset that I was in. And there was another time where I went with this kid to his family cabin. We were staying there for the weekend with his family, and they had all this food out, so much candy, donuts for breakfast. And I was shook, and I was like getting anxious. I was like, guys, where are we gonna get our 30 grams of protein for breakfast? Like, this donut is not it. Like, is there Greek yogurt around? Is there cottage cheese? Like, I should have brought my protein powder. I didn't want to bring my own food though. Like, how awkward, like, how weird. Like, I'm not gonna be that girl. And because I had brought him like foods to restaurants before, and that again still always left me so unsatisfied that I went home and ate more than what I would have if I just ordered a normal meal at the restaurant. And then I would be like so upset at myself, like, why am I doing this? But anyway, at the cabin with this kid, I was like, just again in awe. I was like, these guys are living such a peaceful life. It appears that they don't even care about this candy that's out every time they walk past, when that's all I can think about is like, I shouldn't eat that. I want it. I shouldn't eat that. Should I just have one? No, it has so many calories in it. I shouldn't eat that. But maybe I'll just have one. And then if I have one, maybe I'll have two. And then all of a sudden, if I have two, I feel so bad that I might as well have 10. And those kind of thoughts were what I was having. And I just couldn't figure out like what was going on. So again, when I got back home, got on my own routine again, I was like, all right, back on track. But then I had another vacation coming up. This was just like a vacation era for me, like a traveling era. And it was my last one that I had planned. And I went to Hawaii with some friends. I even did like my bodybuilding check-in there. I took my pictures, sent them in. I was like hoping that I didn't look too bad for my coach, because obviously I was out of town. And like, it's like, okay, well, you know what? Maybe I'm going to try and like enjoy this vacation and just like eat the food that's around and not think too much about it. And when I got back from that vacation, for whatever reason, I just could not stick to the diet at all. I couldn't do it. Like, in the past, like I used to be able to do 3 days perfectly tracking the macros. And then the fourth one I would snap. But now I just couldn't even do it for a day. I couldn't. I don't know what was going on. But I told my coach eventually that I was like, hey, I'm like struggling with this. And when I told him, he told me to eat more vegetables. And I was like, yes, sir. Okay, I will try. Same thing happened over and over again. I was like, listen, I don't know what's going on, but like maybe like, what do you think I should do? Like, and he would ask me like what I'm eating, and I would be like, okay, I'm doing this and this and this. And then he's like, okay, well, you just need more control. And I was like, oh dear, I'm trying to control my food, and clearly it's not working. And so I like really like took a step back from that and was like, oh my gosh, like if I just need more control and I'm trying to control and this is what my life is looking like, what am I going to do? Because how my like scenarios in my life that were getting like where I knew it was getting pretty bad was I went to a jazz game with a friend, all you can eat buffet. Again, I would always start out good. Probably, I don't even think I probably had like I had a big lunch. I probably had a very small breakfast, a very small lunch, saving up calories for that meal. And it was all you can eat. So I like started with a spinach salad, tried to be healthy, but then would just like go back for more and more and more. Trying to be like secretive about it, but like how secretive can you be? Anyway, I ate myself so sick that I just like wanted to throw up, but I couldn't. I was just like so uncomfortable in my body, and like it's like all I can remember. Isn't that sad? Like that's what happens when like all you can think about is food and body is just like the food and how you feel about yourself. Not even like the experience, not even like the conversations that you had. And that was one experience. And then like anytime I'd go into work and there was like bagels brought in, the chatter would start, be like, Megan, you shouldn't have that, but I want it. Maybe just a little bit. No, you shouldn't have that. It would put you way over your carbs. It'd put you way over your calories. You would have, if you had that, then you couldn't have rice for dinner. Or if you had breakfast, or if you had a cookie. Because if it wasn't bagels, then it was cookies. And if I had a cookie, then I was like, well, if I have that, then I really need to cut back on my fats and carbs later on. And this was what my dinner would look like. It would just be like chicken and vegetables. And sometimes it would work, but a lot of times it wouldn't. And I just remember so many occasions where I would just feel so defeated. And I would wonder, like, where did the Megan go that was able to be vegan and was so disciplined and so strict on her diet that if something had high fructose corn syrup, wouldn't look at it. If something had an animal product, would not even taste it, you know? I would not even be associated with that because I was, like, so strong-willed and disciplined, so vocal, too, about, like, my diet and my beliefs and everything. Like, where did that Megan go? Because right now, like, I don't even recognize who I am. I feel like I'm living a double life. I don't feel like I'm aligned with what I'm doing right now because at no point until then had I asked myself, like, what I really wanted. Like, what was my why? Because when I was, like, seriously so struggling, I, like, DM'd a couple girls that were also bodybuilders, and, like, I asked them, I was like, hey, we have the same coach. Like, have you ever struggled with binge eating? Have you ever struggled with like your relationship with food? Because I need some advice. And they told me, don't buy the food, go on a walk when you have the urge, and think about your why. And I was like, okay, I've tried the other two. Both didn't work, but thinking about my why, I don't think I have one. And that was like a rude awakening for me that really started to flip the switch, was like, why am I doing this? Why do I want to transform my body so badly? And why is it only about transforming my body to look like stage lean? Because I had tried to convince myself that that's what I wanted. I tried to convince myself that I wanted the show day, that I wanted the glam, that I wanted that experience, that I wanted to, feel that pain of doing something hard. And I would research, like, bodybuilders, like, they have to go through, like, all these hard things of, like, their mental decline, their, like, cognitive decline, their hormones get ruined. Like, this is, like, their reality, but they do it to compete, and it's their sport. And I was like, I respect the sport, but to be honest with you, I don't know if it's for me, because I literally am self-destructing right now. And when I realized that, I was like, well, maybe I can, like, transform my body and not do the show day. And so I was trying to figure out what I could do to change. Honestly, like, all I wanted was that transformation. But again, I didn't ask myself about the deeper work. I didn't ask myself who I wanted to be. Those weren't the questions that I was entertaining. I was honestly driven by the embarrassment of, like, what I was doing with the food, and also for this need for external validation to become this type of person that people would praise. And eventually I started, like, following people, like, looking for help, like, how to eat healthier, like, how to have a healthier relationship with food. And I don't even know, like, what I was stumbling upon or how I, like, gotten connected to these accounts. Probably, like, I was, like, looking up how to, like, stop overeating and, like, those type of things. But eventually, like, I found, like, different accounts that would talk about, like, what's really going on, like, what is binge eating. And I was like, oh my gosh, wait a second, is what I'm doing not just overeating, but is what is happening to me, is it binge eating? And I, like, remember, like, feeling like, whoa, I never thought, like, I would be, like, having an eating disorder. Like, I never thought that something like that would happen to me, until I, like, started to, like, understand what I was doing was literally everything that fit the criteria for binge eating disorder. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe this is worse than I thought, but I was like, but I'm also, it's not that bad. Like, I'm not struggling that bad. So I wouldn't ask for help. I wouldn't talk to anybody. Like, I was like, I can fix this on my own. At least I tried. But again, I was like, I don't know if this could happen to me. And so eventually I did. One of the accounts, like, recommended the intuitive eating book. And so I picked it up for the first time and was curious about, could I lose weight and intuitively eat? Could I have my dream body and find food freedom? Could I heal my relationship with food and transform how I look and be lean? But I shortly thereafter realized that intuitive eating is not a weight loss protocol. It's a self-care protocol. And it's a holistic approach to eating well and treating yourself well. And they tell you to put weight loss on the back burner while you're working on yourself. And I was like, oh, I want to do this so badly. But right now, for me, weight loss is number one. And I'm not ready to set that aside. I'm not ready to put that on the back burner yet. And I was like, I just want weight loss at all costs. So when I'm ready, I'll read that book. But again, I have to lose the weight first. And then we'll talk. That me and that book will talk. And unfortunately, the cycle kept repeating. I would continuously try and restrict my food, and then binge and restrict, and binge and restrict, and binge and restrict. And eventually I learned that in order to stop the binge restrict cycle, it wasn't to restrict more. It wasn't to stop the binging, it was to stop the restricting. And that was, like, one of those moments where I was like, interesting. interesting because every single night I would be faced with the same problem. Myself. Like, I was my own biggest enemy. I couldn't control, I felt like I couldn't control myself. I'd like argue in my head all the time, like, don't you want your dream body? Then don't eat. But I'm hungry. But hunger doesn't care about your goals. Don't you have any willpower? If you have willpower, like, don't eat. Don't do this. Do that instead. You'll never lose weight if you eat. And it was just so loud, like that chatter. I just wanted an escape. And so sometimes, like, I would literally just, like, I'd, like, first of all, eat anything that I could in the house. But if that didn't satisfy me, then I was going to Winco and I was getting cereal. And I would bring that back home and, like, eat an entire box. And I would remember, like, being at Winco and staring at the Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And I'd be like, all the ingredients in that I shouldn't be eating. That's what I would tell myself. And I was like, Megan, 2 years ago, would look at the ingredient list, put that back on the shelf, and walk away. But for whatever reason right now, all I want to do is freaking eat that cereal. It was so funny to me. I was like, who am I? Honestly, like, it's midnight, and I'm in Winco, staring at a box of cereal, having a conversation with myself in my head. Nobody knows what's going on right now. And I was just struggling, and I was like, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what I want, but I don't want this, because it was really starting to ruin my life. It was ruining how I thought about myself. It was ruining my relationships. I wasn't hanging out with anybody. I wasn't hanging out with my family. I was trying to avoid anything that had to do with food. I was trying to be really strict about my workout routines, and that made me, like, again, took up my time. And I really started thinking about my why, and now I didn't have one. I just wanted to look shredded. I wanted to be lean. I didn't want anything else. That's it. That was it. And I felt so inauthentic to myself and my method for coaching. Like, I was literally coaching a handful of people how to be 1% healthier, to feel better in their bodies, to make lifestyle changes. And I was like, what I'm doing right now feels very misaligned, and I see that, and, like, my intuition is telling me that over and over again, like, I need to do something different, because obviously what I'm doing is not working for myself. And I just felt like I was living this double life, and I would ask myself, is it even worth it? Is it worth pursuing anymore if I just feel so bad all the time? And while I was, like, going through this crisis of, like, what is my why? What am I doing here? I got invited to go to the temple with a friend, and ironically, it's always those times where you get invited to have a spiritual experience that you're like, I don't know if I want to go, but then you end up going. And this was in March, and I went with my friend to the temple, and I remember reading, I'm going to find my little journal entry because I wrote about it. And I had made multiple journal entries where I would ask myself, like, this one right here that I'm looking at is like, is it time for recovery? Is it time to do something different? What is wrong with me? Like, this is what I just did. Literally this experience as I'm reading it is I went to a family dinner, and on my way home, I stopped at a gas station, got 2 maple donuts, demolished them. On my way home, I stopped at the most recent gas station, got 2 more donuts, ate those, felt absolutely sick to my stomach, wondering, like, why am I doing this? Like, what is going on? Like, I've eaten so much. I had all this cereal, I had all this popcorn, I stopped at Chevron, I got a maple bar and a chocolate donut, then I stopped by one at my house, and now I'm sick. And genuinely, right now, I feel so blah that I'm going to explode. Last night, I didn't go to bed until 4 a.m. because I couldn't turn my brain off, thinking about my work and thinking about what I'm doing. See, like, those were, like, the things that I was, like, writing down. I was like, what is going on? So when I went to the temple, that was on my mind, and I had picked up the scriptures first in the Spanish version and flipped open to in the Book of Mormon in Enos, where it said that Enos was raised in the discipline and admonition of the Lord. And then in English, it says, in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, which I thought was interesting. Because to me, nurture is like taking care of, and discipline is supposedly the highest form of self-love. And I was like, interesting, because if you nurture something constantly, like you're raising a kid, you're not expecting overnight changes for them, or you're shaming them into change. You're caring for them day by day. And I was like, interesting. Because my version of trying to be disciplined right now is definitely wanting extremes. And it's a day by day effort, but the way that I was putting out my effort was clearly not in alignment with what I was trying to do. And then I read in the verse 12, and it said that it came to pass that after I had prayed and labored with all diligence, the Lord said unto me, I will grant unto thee according to thy desires, because of thy faith. And when I read prayed and labored, I was like, oh boy. That stuck out to me, because how many times had I gotten on my knees and prayed and been like, God, please help me to have a good day, got up and did nothing different. Nothing. Like, I was following the same exact meal plan, doing the same habits, not doing any of the deeper work, hadn't done any of the work. I had just like prayed. Like, I just hoped. Like, if you're not like you're not religious, not spiritual, like, it's just our hope to change, but we don't make any effort to actually make that change. And I was like, wow, something's got to give. I got to surrender to something. And my friend asked me after, like, hey, I noticed that you're kind of feeling down. And I told her I was like kind of in a funk with my fitness, and like I didn't have a why for what I was doing. And I told her like I was trying to prep for this bodybuilding show, but every time I tried harder, I was struggling with food. And it took me probably like an hour to finally like express the fact that like even like give her a little ounce of like, yeah, I was binge eating, or like, yeah, I was struggling with food, and like being like so embarrassed about that, because like I didn't feel like anybody else knew what I was, like nobody knew what I was doing. And again, I felt like I was living this double life where on the outside I was healthy, I was doing all the right things, but on the inside, like, man, I would not want anybody to see what I was doing in private. Like, and that to me was crushing my soul, because I'm the person that loves self-improvement and integrity and doing the hard things. And I was like, why, when it comes to food, can I not do it? Like, where is the disconnect? And when I had shared that with her, she was like, have you thought that maybe you could do something different? And I can't really remember exact conversation. I'm not going to read my journal anymore. But like, I remember her telling me like, maybe you can do something different, and maybe you can do it better. And I was like, oh, maybe you're right. And so I like started to take a step back from trying to bodybuild. And what was crazy was, at the time, actually, I'd gone on a date with this kid, and he'd asked me like how the temple went, and I also told him like I was kind of in a funk with fitness and stuff. And he was like, do you want to talk about it? And I was like, eventually, like, yeah, I would like to talk about it. And come to find out, like, weeks of getting to know him, he worked at an addiction recovery center, and literally God sent him into my life during that time for that purpose, because I kid you not, months and years, like repeated times, I had looked up addiction recovery, people's recovery stories from like drug and alcohol abuse, thinking that I could use those stories to help me with overcoming what I was doing with food, like if they could help me stop overeating. And I was like so hopeful that like I could find some hope with that. Didn't really know how to apply that. But when I met him, I was like, oh my gosh, wait, teach me what you know. Like, I would like pick his brain and like ask him, and the way that he was just like created like this safe space for me to feel like seen and heard. And I knew that like if I were to tell anybody like I was struggling with food, like I would tell him. Like, he just like, I knew that like he was like a little angel in my life during that time, because I don't know, I just like needed to talk to somebody about it. And eventually took me a really long time to like build up the courage to again say the words binge eating, or like mentioned, like, I've been following a binge eating therapist, and, like, I'm struggling with food. Like, not even, like, saying it directly, because I just, like, struggled to, like, even admit to myself that this is what I was going through. But once I had, like, talked to them both, a weight lifted off my shoulders. I can't even begin to express to you, like, the relief that it felt to be seen and to be known, and to feel like I'm not having to live a secret life anymore because they're aware of what I'm going through. And I think that that's really what we need sometimes when it comes to, like, coaching, when it comes to mentorship. And I heard, like, a quote about, like, marriage, like, you just need a witness to your life. And sometimes you just need a witness to your transformation and a witness to your growth. And sometimes we think that the only transformation we can have is weight loss, because that's something that everybody can see. But if you can talk to somebody about, like, the mental changes that you're going through, and you can literally see the light come back into somebody's eyes, that is a transformation that I love to see. Because after that, I started to welcome the inner work. I decided to realize that maybe I didn't need to go on stage to get the transformation that I was after. Maybe I just needed to see myself in a different light. I picked up the intuitive eating book again, and I started to learn truly what that meant. I felt so aligned to intuitive eating as well, because it's such a holistic approach to health and taking care of yourself. It's literally a self-care approach. And I started to question diet culture. I started to change how I was thinking. I started to change then how I was behaving. I started to unfollow certain people and follow other people. I started to get curious about my emotions. I started to get curious about honoring and trusting my body. I started following accounts that taught me how to change my mind, how to change how I saw myself. And for the first time ever, I remember I stopped eating once I was satisfied. Not because I was trying to control how I looked, but because I was actually good. And I was okay to be done. And that blew my mind, because I never thought that I would be able to do that. Like, thinking back to the time where I was on the cruise and I watched my friend just, like, carry on with conversation and leave food on his plate and, like, watch the waiter take it away. I was like, how? Like, what? Like, what's going on in your mind? Like, why can't I be a normal eater? I finally became a normal eater. And I think that I was really afraid to quit bodybuilding because I didn't want to be a quitter. I didn't want to be seen as a quitter. But in my soul, it didn't feel right. And I can be proud of choosing something that actually aligned with me and moved me forward along my health and fitness journey, instead of constantly digging myself in a hole and feeling knocked down and feeling defeated and feeling like I could never change. That's what it felt like. And to now, like, finally see life, health, nutrition, fitness all differently, that changes everything. Because then I slowly started to get rid of the scale. I stopped weighing myself every day. I stopped tracking my food. I started slowing down at mealtime. I put my food on a plate. I asked myself what I wanted, physically and mentally and emotionally. I let myself travel and eat the foods that were unique there, and not stress out about how many calories were in them. I started to forget about the cereal in my house. I started to be able to work without thinking about food or how much protein I had at breakfast, what I was going to have for lunch, what I was going to eat for dinner. I started to live my life again. And I just want you to know that you can choose to do something different. Your goals can change, your why can change, your body can change, your life can change. It's not wanting weight loss or wanting to change your body is not wrong. Like, there's still space that you can hold for that goal. But what if instead of focusing on just getting a number down, that we focus on health promoting behaviors? Because when I started thinking about, okay, what's actually going to make me healthy? What's going to make me happy? It was, okay, ironically, I was eating relatively the similar things, but it was the mindset that I had around it that was completely changed. And again, it wasn't anything that I was trying to do or change to affect how I looked. once I started like intuitive eating, but it was how I wanted to feel, how I wanted to perform. And I know that eating healthy is sometimes way harder than it seems, because I know firsthand, like, you can make all the posts you want about calories in, calories out, and it is that simple. But again, it's not that easy. And you could be like, eat this, not that. But what if you really wanted that? You didn't want the fake thing, like you wanted the real ice cream. And again, I think that we tie so much moral value to the food that we think that it means so much about us. And that's where a lot of the times we struggle a lot, is because we put so much weight on those food choices, or we put so much weight on how we look, and we say that once we get to this point, then all of our dreams will come true. Like, how many personal trainers do you see on Instagram saying, you help people become more confident and lose weight and get their dream body? And it's not the body that is the dream, it's the life that you think that body will give you. That's what's really going on, is you think that once you achieve that look, that you're going to get all the praise, you're going to get the dream job, you're going to get the dream boy, you're going to live this dream life. But newsflash is, it's not about the body, it's how you see yourself, and it's how you see your life. Because think back to the body you had in high school. If you're anything like me, the body I had in high school was smaller than the one that I have now, but I wasn't ever confident in it then. I constantly wanted to be smaller. I constantly was thinking about food. I went vegan. I was trying so hard to eat healthy all the time. I was the healthy friend, but I still didn't like how I looked, even though I looked great. So that tells me right then is it's never going to be about the body. It's always going to be about how I see myself, about my body image, and about what I think about the world and what I think about other people. Because it doesn't matter what you look like. If you were skinny, or you were skinnier then, or if you're skinnier now, if you don't like how you look right now, then you're not going to like how you look in the future. Because at the end of the day, like, really, you can make all the outside changes that you want, but if the internal chatter is just going on in your head all day long, you're never going to be at peace. You're never going to be that healthy or that happy. So let this be a reminder that it's the inner work that needs to happen. If you're like, oh my gosh, where do I start? Start by asking yourself, what are you really after? And you can start by asking yourself, what's really going on? What are you really trying to control? What are you really trying to change? There's a lot of episodes that I want to make on like food and body image and health and nutrition. So we'll get there. And if there's specific episodes or topics you want to cover, let me know. You can DM me, you can comment them. But I just want you to know that you can hold on to that desire to like change and become a better version of yourself, but just be aware of the meaning that you're tying to it. And at the end of this episode, I just want you to know that change is possible for you, and that the more that I have tried to become an intuitive eater, the more that I've tried to work out and have purpose behind that being more for my performance, I've genuinely been happier. I felt stronger, I felt faster, and it's a lifestyle that I love, and it's not extreme. And like my 1% healthier approach like finally feels aligned with how I eat, how I act, how I work out, and that to me is happy, where things just are aligned. And you can have that too. Your why can change. Your goals can change. And yeah, I hope you feel seen, and I hope that you can feel like this is a safe space to just like chat and have a heart to heart. And if you ever need somebody to talk to, because I know how embarrassing it can feel, but really it's not, because a lot of people do struggle, and I struggled. So I am a listening ear. You can DM me. So thank you for being a witness to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope that you choose to be 1% healthier today, make decisions that are truly aligned with your goals, and that you remember that it doesn't have to mean so much. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. And if you've been enjoying this podcast, you can leave it an honest rating and review, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.